What is next for the Queensland property market? 2021's been a little bit crazy, so what does the future look like and how do we see the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years playing out? And what is really going to happen next year? Who knows? So let's break down what the economists are saying, what projects are going on, and exactly where I think property prices might move in the next 12 months. My name's Luke and I talk about all things real estate, renovating, and financial freedom. So subscribe to the channel down below, drop a like on this video, and let's jump into today's video. So we're really seeing a big change in the supply and demand equation up here in Queensland. Lots of developers are working in the growth corridor between Brisbane and the Gold Coast, building lots of property in Pimpama and Ormeau and out at Springfield. And so those land supply areas might see some growth as the rising tide lifts all ships, but there's going to continue to be more land developed there over time. It's very easy for investors to be suckered into those areas because what happens is they see a lot of infrastructure, they're told it's a growth corridor, and they see that there's potentially opportunity for depreciation benefits and a new property which is not going to have any issues. The reality of the situation is people can have their capital tied up in these properties in the growth corridors. They can be sitting on a negative property, so negative cash flows and negative equity. Even after those depreciation benefits, they're essentially making a loss on those properties and they're not going to realize as much capital growth as they could in better locations which have better proximity to schools, infrastructure, transport, and access to the CBD. Now, as a whole across Southeast Queensland, from the Sunshine Coast all the way down to the Gold Coast, we're seeing massive amounts of demand. Now, this has been largely driven from interstate buyers who are looking to move into Queensland and potentially see a change in lifestyle or just invest their cash there because lots of people are realizing that Southeast Queensland is going through a boom period currently and they want to ride the wave of growth that we've had. Now, for me, Brisbane and Southeast Queensland is a long-term play. The market has low median price points relative to the other major capital cities, sitting around the $600,000, $700,000 mark, where those other capital cities in Sydney and Melbourne are well over the $1 million median price point. So it's really a seller's market at the moment up here in Southeast Queensland, but that doesn't mean you can't get a good deal and you can't be sharp when you're making an offer on property up here in Queensland. Now, let's look a little bit broader to places like Rockhampton, Townsville, Mackay, those opportunities which are more regional locations outside of Southeast Queensland. Cairns, for example, so these places, they have airports, they might be diverse, multi-factored economies, which might not just be reliant on one industry, like a mining industry, for example. Now, these locations for me are more cash flow plays. If you're looking to potentially take a bit of risk and look for a higher cash flow, these locations might be for you. But if you're looking for more growth opportunities, I'll be steering clear of the outer regions and the regional locations compared to the Southeast Queensland market, which has a large CBD location, a large population, and is going to see the population grow from 2.2 million people to 3 million people by 2030. So the real key up here in Queensland is affordability. Now, we've got affordable price points. You can buy a basic house in a good location for, say, anywhere from $400,000 to $500,000, even as low as $300K. Now, when you're moving below $300,000, you're more looking at, townhouses or potentially houses which are in low socioeconomic locations and might not give you great tenants or might not give you a long-term capital growth that you're looking for. Because you might have maintenance and issues with tenants and turnover, there's all these things to take into account. But really in Brisbane, when you've got a budget of 300 grand plus, you can get into the property market up here on a freehold house and land. That's a really big differentiation point compared to Sydney and Melbourne. Now, Brisbane's also got a differentiation between Adelaide and Perth because of the infrastructure and the population growth that it's going to see in the coming years. Now, affordability is one of those things that's going to be squeezed out over time. And we've seen around 20% price growth this year in 2021, and we're looking to see potentially 5 to 10% growth in 2022. Even with those growth drivers and the percentage growth that we've seen, you can still purchase a property for $500,000 here, or $300,000, or $800,000. Being able to purchase an investment property in that range from, say, $300,000 to $1.2 million really makes Southeast Queensland an interesting market, because you might be able to get some diversification and potentially purchase a $600,000 property on the north side and a $600,000 property on the south side, or look down on the Gold Coast for, a different opportunity. So really the next big points for the Queensland market are what is going to happen in the short term, mid-term, and long term for Queensland. In the short term, we know that the economics are changing around lending policy, RBA and interest rates. So that's going to affect people's lending capacity over the next few years, but we're going to see a run of growth over the next 1 or 2 years. Over the midterm, we're going to see major infrastructure projects finish and potentially Australia's economy open back up to the world, when more people will use the dual lanes at the Brisbane airport, and we're looking to see the Cross River Rail be finished and Queen Street Wharf, which are major projects within Brisbane CBD in the next 3 to 5 years. Finally, looking out to a 10-year horizon, Brisbane's going to have the Olympic Games in 2032, and that's really going to be the pinnacle of all the growth that we've seen through the infrastructure and the population and the interstate migration, and I think all of that's going to come to a head towards the Olympic Games. Now, what that means is Brisbane has opportunities both short, mid, and long term, but everyone's kind of aware of all these factors. So really what this means is it's getting priced into the current prices. And you need to be careful when you're making buying decisions. You know, when you're taking a consideration of prices, you need to not look at what's comparable sales were, say, 12 months ago or 6 months ago. You need to look at recent sales within the last 6 months. We're definitely seeing this on the ground. You know, property prices are moving quickly at the moment and we've seen massive bouts of growth. But what that means is some people are getting lost behind and looking at comparables from 12 months ago. Just to give you an example, a recent purchase that we were looking to make, we offered, say, high 500s, and after discussing further with the selling agent, some people had come in the mid 400s and some had come in the mid 600s. So there's a big gap in terms of the knowledge of buyers on the ground as to what prices are sitting at the moment. Obviously, the highest price is winning in terms of these blind auctions and negotiation scenarios. And terms are very important as well in terms of settlement timeframe, finance, and building and pest clauses. But for the Queensland market as a whole, if you're looking to buy and hold for the long term, I still see great opportunities in the Brisbane market and making a purchase for the long term. So purchasing in locations that have limited supply, large land component or large land value in particular, and a property that you can hold for the long term, which doesn't have massive maintenance costs like a new roof or new stumps, for example, which don't add any value to the property. You know, we also like renovated properties because you can add value to them. Up here in Brisbane, we've got a lot of Queenslanders and weatherboard homes and, you know, older homes that were built in the 60s and 70s. So there's great buying up here in Brisbane. It's about finding the right opportunity that meets your circumstances. Some people are looking for a renovator up here in Queensland. Some people are looking for tenant ready, but all in all, if you're looking to hold for the long term, Queensland is looking like a great place to buy over the short, mid, and long term. So if you're interested in using my buyer's agency services, I run a company called Purpose Property, helps people buy in the Southeast Queensland market. Check out the link in the description down below. Subscribe to the channel and click this video over here if you want to see more videos on real estate, renovating, and financial freedom. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.